technical difficulties. So if you can hear me, put something in the chat to let me know that we are live. Awesome. Sounds like things are streaming live. I'm waiting for Michael to jump back on. The software we're using uh, is having an issue, but I think we're good. I think we're good now. So welcome. If you are here, I am pumped you're here. Michael's jumping back on here in a second. Just mentioned we have been having technical difficulties. That's why we're getting started so late, but we are here ready to answer your questions. Welcome. Hey, while we're waiting for Michael to jump back on, if you are in the chat there, maybe throw, if you're in a place where you can, throw in where you're tuning in from around the world. So in case you don't know, I'm Jordan and I am with Laundromat Resource. Here's Michael. Okay, we are live already. What's up, Michael? How's it going?
Hey, Jordan, doing pretty good. How you doing?
I am doing good. I was just letting everybody know we've been having technical issues with the software, but we are good to go now. And if you are out there, throw in the chat where you're coming from. I'm in Orange County. All right, we got Irene in Kansas City. So somebody is out there and can hear us. Awesome. All right, we got Kansas City and St. Louis, Missouri. Are you in Kansas City, Kansas, or Kansas City, Missouri? Curious. If our first two people are from Missouri, that'd be pretty incredible. Kinder, what's going on from Long Island? All right, you guys are trickling in now. So love it. I'm going to introduce Michael here in a second. Waleed, what's up? And Michael Miller, Winston, Ohio. Ooh, two from Missouri. All right. Irene, Missouri. I'm going to introduce Michael here just in case you don't know who Michael is. While I'm doing that, if you have questions, let's start getting them in because Michael is here to answer your questions. And in case you don't know who Michael is a two-time podcast guest, which in and of itself makes him a pretty important person, I think. But no, he bought a laundromat. Things were not going well for a long time, and he really turned that sucker around and is killing it now. If you have not listened to his podcast episodes, by the way, you need to go back and listen to him because not only does he tell his story, which is just a super compelling story, but in both episodes, he breaks down step by step actual practical ways, things that he implemented to help him grow his business. So two of the most popular episodes of the podcast right there with Michael. So Michael, how you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. How you doing today, Jordan?
I am doing awesome. Real quick, Patrick in Cincinnati. Love it. And Madison and Charlotte. What's up, Madison? Madison said, Michael looks like he's ready to take my Wendy's order. I think it's that headset, huh?
Exactly. We tried using the microphone, but we discovered earlier we can't have nice things. So, yeah,
including
including
software that works. So,
So I got to use the cell phone to tap in today's meeting. So I got like very limited visibility here of our interface. So if there's a question on the screen or anything, I might have to have you read it to me.
I will read it to you. I am excellent at that and not a whole lot of other things. So get those questions in. If you got questions, anything laundromat related, marketing related, even just Michael's story, get those questions in and we'll start taking them. But real quick, can you give us just a quick overview, a quick rundown of you and your story? I know you've done that on the podcast, but just maybe like a 1 minute, maybe 2 minute version of your story.
Yep. Hi guys, Mike Jones here from Daytona Laundromat. I got a laundromat out here in Daytona Beach that at first was probably not the best idea to buy because we had 5 competitors within 1 mile. And we struggled for the first several months. I think the first 6 months were the worst 6 months of my life. Sent a message to Jordan saying, hey, I need some help here because I am just in way over my head. At that point, I was actually sleeping on the floor in the laundromat because that's how destitute things were. He gave me some advice on running some promotions, and we had discovered from running those promotions that there really is a lot of business out here. The community may not be underserved in the sense of there being not enough laundromats, but underserved in the sense of there being a lot of quality ones out here, because there are very few quality laundromats out here. And we put those principles to work. Also learned digital marketing. I got very well versed in that, spent as much time learning as possible and put all of those strategies into place. I have something that I can share with everybody about digital marketing and a free gift for you just for listening, no strings attached. And since then, we've managed to put one of our competitors out of business, one down, 4 to go. And if you want to get some ideas on how we were able to do that with our digital marketing, social media, and search engine SEO, just head over to DaytonaLaundromat.com/book. There is a free gift there for you, a free guide on digital marketing. That's DaytonaLaundromat.com/book.
Put that in the chat.
Mm-hmm. And something I'm curious about here, I know like I'm supposed to be in the hot seat here, but what I'm curious about to everybody watching is anybody struggling to get Google reviews out there? Because if you're struggling to get Google reviews, then as they send me a message at DaytonaLaundromat@gmail.com, send me a message there, because like we want to see if this is like a viable thing here to help laundromat owners with, to see if this is a service people are interested in, is services to help them get customers to leave feedback more often.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Listen, if you have a laundromat or a laundry service, man, there's really no better way to get business in for free than to have a lot of really good reviews on Google, because those reviews are social proof, right? And so just think about, like, if you go looking for whatever, a restaurant or whatever, and you see one that's got 4 stars, but it's got 3 reviews, and you see one that's 4.6 stars and it's got 127 reviews, which laundromat are you going to go to? I want the 127 reviews for sure, right? So
exactly, and not just for that though. Not just for, there's another element to it that's I remember from the worst 6 months of my life when I first opened this place, was that when you don't have that many reviews, well, now each review is far more impactful and can have a greater effect on the overall rating. And you can find yourself going from a 4 rating to a 2 rating within just a few days. So those first 6 months of owning this laundromat with very few reviews, it was very difficult to sleep, just because of how impactful a bad one could be. So not just getting as many reviews as possible, but getting as many positive reviews as possible as early on as you can is critical for your peace of mind as a business owner, to ensure that you got like that shield of positivity protecting your business listing from becoming the nasty, undesired sheep of the herd there.
Yeah. Awesome. So DaytonaLaundromat@gmail.com. I put that in the chat there. And then for the free gift, go to DaytonaLaundromat.com/book. And that's also in the chat there. So a couple questions have come in already. So first question is, I think, a great one. I mean, you mentioned may not have been the easiest place to buy a laundromat. Can you tell us a little bit about what you learned from buying that particular laundromat in terms of what to look for when you're trying to buy your first laundromat?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to go to the Google search, the Google keyword tool, and just type in there some of the keywords related to laundromats and see how often they're being searched each month. Ideally, you want to see searches for phrases like laundromat near me. You want to see that search more than 1,000 times a month, hopefully closer to 2,000, if not more. Laundry service, like drop off, pickup, and delivery. You want to see that within either a 5-mile radius or just in the city name. You want to see that being searched at least 100 times a month. Otherwise, it may not be all that viable in that area. That's a good way to do competitive research without leaving your house. Make sure you localize the keyword search tool. If you don't know how to do that, we did it in, I think, our first episode together. Shared my screen, show you how to localize that. Make sure you do that. And another thing you can do, you're gonna have to leave the house for this one, is you just drive out to these other laundromats that are in the area and see how far apart they are from each other. And not just in terms of distance, but also in terms of time. Like if there's a lot of traffic lights in between, if there's a lot of traffic in between, if it's a real pain back and forth between. See how many neighborhoods and apartments and places for rent are surrounding the area. And what you could do is go to these apartment complexes and just kind of sit in the parking lot, pull out your phone, pull up Google, type in laundromat near me, and see what comes up first. And if what you see is a low-rated zombie mat, then that's not an area with competition that's threatening to you, or competition you can't overcome. Whereas if you see something that has got 200 positive reviews and has very nice, clean-looking pictures in the on the Google results page or on their website and everything, that might be a difficult one to overcome. So those would be some ways that I would be looking into it. I would also be searching for zombie mats themselves, because probably the reason why they're becoming zombie mats is that the owners of them are not putting in the effort to keep them running properly, to keep those customers satisfied. They may have gotten too old for the business, or they've just maybe it was inherited, like the original owner died and it got passed along to the heir that just didn't know anything about running this business. Or it could also be somebody that was dumb like me and bought something that they weren't prepared for and got in way over their head. Would love it if somebody just bought them out of it. Those, I think, are some potential opportunities. But again, do your Google keyword research and do the sit in the apartment parking lot research.
Yeah, I like that. Out of curiosity, this is my question, but out of curiosity, if you could go back in time, would you still buy the same laundromat that you ended up buying?
Well, knowing what I know now about marketing, yes. But if you take that information away from me, but I am able to see how in over my head I would be, probably not.
Yeah,
Probably not. I mean, because when you look at some of these areas that are vacation areas, it is very marketing heavy. You got to be a great marketing expert, because the people that you're going to be winning as customers, they're going to change week to week. Only a small percentage of your customers are going to be regulars that you see every week or every month. When it's a vacation area like Daytona Beach, you really do got to go heavy on the marketing, just because the people that occupy this city turns over week to week.
yeah, yeah. Awesome. Okay, another question. Actually, Madison says, also suggest typing in laundry, laundromats, laundry service into Answer the Public to see what queries people are putting into Google, and this will also help you come up with some content ideas for social and SEO. So that's a good little tip there, and we kind of talked about that in one of the episodes too. What incentives do you offer to encourage customers to give you reviews, if any?
You got to be careful with that, because you can't really do too much there. I mean, if Google found out that you were bribing customers, they probably would take action against you. Now, there's a couple things that you can do here. Is you can put up posters in the store with a QR code that makes it incredibly easy for them to leave a review. You got to ask them to leave a review. You definitely got to ask them to do it sometimes. Another thing is with your customers, if they're drop-off customers or they're pickup and delivery customers or any type where you get their email from them, what's perfectly acceptable to do and is pretty easy is to send out an email to those customers with a link to the profile asking for that review. I would not encourage anybody to say, well, offer a discount to people if they leave a review or anything like that, just because the risk is too high. But what I think is perfectly okay, though, is if you find customers specifically that exist to go around to these places to leave reviews, because there are people out there that are like that. Way back in the old days, when it was related to Yelp, they were called Yelpers or something, and that was the whole point of them. Was businesses would bring them in, they would lobby them to come in and say, "Hey, come in and review my place." Now you got to do a good job once they're there, but I think Google has something similar, and you can find a lot of these people in Facebook groups for your local community. I think that, at least in Florida, just about every city has a Facebook group that's called "What's Happening in This City." So what's happening in Daytona, what's happening in Miami, what's happening in Tampa. You can find that and see if there's any people that are like local guides for Google that are just going around visiting local businesses and leaving reviews. And you also just want to leverage your friends and family, and if you share a plaza with other businesses, it's perfectly acceptable to do exchanges with the other stores in that plaza, because you guys all having 5-star reviews helps out the whole plaza and getting more foot traffic over there. So I think that would probably be your best bets, your best tactics.
Yeah, really good advice and tips there, because like you said, you do have to be careful about offering incentives. But one thing that's just overlooked so often, and it's the simplest thing, and it's kind of a no-brainer, but asking for those reviews is a great way to get reviews, right? Now, one caveat I want to add, because I think you nailed it on the head, and one thing I want to add to that is, don't ask for reviews until you're providing a good service, right? Because if you ask for reviews and you're not providing a good experience for your customers, I mean, you're not going to get good reviews. It's not going to help you to get a whole bunch of 2 and 3-star reviews. So you want to make sure you're providing excellent service and ensuring you're going to get those 5-star reviews. If you're going to ask for the reviews, so button that stuff up and then start implementing a lot of these techniques. And I'd say get on it quick, because it's important. It's really important.
Exactly. One time I asked for reviews just a day after I'd raised the price. So what do you think the review was about?
Yep. We're raising the price. More expensive. Yeah. So you definitely want to think through that stuff. Awesome tips. Okay. Another question that came in, and speaking of which, welcome to all you guys who are joining us. Sorry if you tried to join us early. We had some technical difficulties, but we're back on. Get your questions in, because Michael is here to answer your questions. And then I'm here to just tag on and pretend like I know what he's talking about, and I knew that all along. So one question that came in is, how do you know? So your laundromat, it wasn't doing that great, and then it was doing pretty big business for a laundromat down the line after you did all this, you implemented all these marketing techniques and all this stuff, right? Is there a way to tell if a laundromat can do that type of $40,000 a month? Is there a way to tell? Can any laundromat do that? Did you just luck into it? What do you think?
I mean, you are going to have to always make assumptions, because if it was so easy to be so scientific, then we would have an incredibly efficient market out there with 0 buying opportunities for you to get into the business. So you're always going to have to make assumptions. Now, what I think is the best way to determine, is there enough business out there, enough potential out there for you to have a sustainable business, is look at those Google numbers and see how much search volume is going for those keywords. And you want to bear in mind also that not every laundromat customer does a Google search before going to the laundromat, so there may be more business out there than what you can pull off of Google. I think that there might be a way that I've not tried it yet or looked at it yet, but yeah, there's a website called Social Blade that tracks how many interactions that a social media account is getting. I would imagine there must be something similar that tracks how often a Google business profile is being interacted with. And by interacted with, what I mean is how often people are asking for directions to the store or calling the phone number directly from the Google app. But a great way to tell that is just how competitive and expensive is it to run an ad in the area for laundromats, because those expenses for the ads on Google, they're only made expensive if the ads are being clicked on and people are interacting with them. So if you got if you're seeing $2 for a click out there in your area, it means that there actually is a lot of demand, a lot of people searching for laundromats out there. If you really want a super, if you're not afraid to invest money, you really want a super good way to do this here, almost fail safe, is just post up a Google ad that just works in the area about a laundromat or a laundry service. That's the action you want people to take from the ad is to just call a phone number and see how many people call the phone number. And that way you got some pretty undisputed evidence there of people that want a new laundromat to go to. It'll probably cost you some money there. It might cost you, might spend like $300 on doing that. But it's probably a lot better to spend $300 than to spend $300,000 on a new laundromat.
Yeah, that's some perspective right there. And you can kind of even consider that like an inspection, right? Like you probably shouldn't buy a laundromat unless it's brand spanking new. You probably shouldn't buy a laundromat without having the machines inspected, the sewer line inspected. This is going to cost you a couple, $200-300. So, I mean, I think it's pretty comparable to that. So I think that's a viable option. I like that. Are you using, well, before we get to that question, oh man, I just had another question that was my question on top of that question. I don't remember what it was, so we'll go to the next question. Are you using geofencing, and if so, how are you using geofencing?
Yeah, definitely using geofencing. Main ways that we're using it is to target the people that live in the nearby apartments, try to get them coming here. We also are targeting people that are using ATMs, put geofences around there, and definitely using it on our competitors. Because we want people that use our competitors to be aware that there are alternatives out here just in case they ever have a bad experience at a competitor. For the most part, though, when you hire a geofencing firm like Kalari Media, well, they're pretty well versed in how laundromats win their business or who they win that business from. So they'll take care of a lot of that from you, or they'll do all of that hard work for you. I think that with geofencing, you definitely want to use it if you're brand new and you don't have an established customer base, or if you're a laundromat that just retooled, you just took over a zombie mat and remodeled. Absolutely, you want to do geofencing to let people know that there's some new face of the company, and the laundromat is not the old zombie mat that it used to be. And you definitely want to give it at least 3 to 6 months before it really starts working for you, because sometimes people just need to see an ad 7 times before they even give what's being advertised a chance.
Yeah. Yeah. And, so we've had Ernesto and Barbara on the podcast talking about geofencing. So if you're not familiar with that, check out that podcast episode. And there's also on YouTube. I know we're on a lot of platforms right now, but on the YouTube channel, Laundromat Resource YouTube channel, we did a live Q&A with them too. So if you've got questions about geofencing, you can get your answers there about how that works, what it is, and how it can benefit your laundromat or laundry service business. Awesome. Keep those questions rolling in. That is what we are here for. We are here to answer those questions. So keep them coming in the chat there. I got another question that rolled in off of Facebook, and the question is, do you see, well, and you may or may not know the answer to this, but do you see a big difference on, depending on what market, people are in, like, you're in Florida. What about like a small town market? In terms of marketing, is there a big difference between, you know, how a smaller laundromat or smaller town laundromat should approach things? You may not know, but you might have some insight in there for them.
Yeah, I mean, let's see. So the question is that they're in a small town, and they're probably wondering, do they got to do like the same amount of, uh, the same amount of marketing efforts that somebody like I would do in a vacation town? And I'd say, well, even if you don't have to, I would still do it. You probably won't have to spend as much money as I do on marketing, which is good. But I would still do it because the way that people are becoming receptive of marketing has changed a little bit. Like the old days of interruption marketing, whether it was like commercials interrupting your TV show or interrupting the songs you listen to on Spotify or whatever. People get pretty annoyed by that, and they're willing to pay to do away with that.
Mm-hmm.
Junk mail that they receive in the mailbox, first thing they do is throw it away without even looking at it. Somebody hands me a flyer whenever I'm walking anywhere around on beachside. So there's always people that hand flyers for like, hey, come see this band, or hey, come to this new store. When someone hands me a flyer, what I think of is they're telling me, here, throw this away from me, because that's what happens. And I think that the best thing that any business owner can do right now, whether it's in a small town or in a large town, is just learn the digital marketing landscape, because that is permission marketing. That is not interruption marketing. And what we mean by that is that when you look at people that are on their cell phones, that cell phone has their undivided attention, even as they're scrolling through Facebook or scrolling through Google results. They're paying direct and full attention to that, as opposed to an ad on TV or an ad in the newspaper or in a magazine. They're flipping through kind of absent-mindedly sometimes, or TV's just on in the background. They're not really watching it. But when somebody is on their phone, they're really on their phone. And this is one chance you get to be able to have both of their eyeballs concentrated in this small section that you get control over. I think that you'll only benefit your business by learning that, even if you end up like not using it that much or not using it at all in laundromats. If you have any other business endeavors, that's really going to help you. The other things with permission marketing is that you don't want to be doing the direct mail, or running around leaving flyers or anything on people's cars, because it's a lot of work and it actually costs a lot of money. Whereas this digital marketing that we could do with Facebook ads or with Google ads, it's pretty low cost, and you don't have to go running around all over town in the hot sun distributing things. And I think another reason why we think it's more acceptable and why we call it permission marketing is that a Google ad you're not going to see unless you type in keywords, a search for keywords that are related to what your business does. So that's people giving you permission there already. And on Facebook and other social media platforms like Instagram, your ads only show to people that have shown to the Facebook algorithm that they would be receptive to those ads. So while you may be in a small town and the volume of it may not be that great, I think it's still worth doing, because you'll be able to win business that probably your competitors are not thinking of how to win business, using tactics that they're not thinking about doing. And you probably spend less money too, just because there's less reach that you have to go after.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, I think laundromats have gotten away for so long without doing any advertising that the landscape is shifting. And while you might be able to get away with it for a little while longer, I think tomorrow's zombie mats are the people who aren't investing in progressing forward in things like advertising and things like, some of this having a strong digital presence, whether that's through your website or through Google reviews or, all of the above, really, social media presence. And, one of my big takeaways from, I think it was your first interview on the podcast was, one of the huge benefits of social media is, yes, you might be able to reach some of your potential customers through social media. However, and even in my view, and I think probably in your view too, and even probably better benefit to having social media accounts is that when people search for a laundromat in their area, those accounts can actually show up on the first page and can push your competitors down the page more. So you can see Daytona Laundromat, DaytonaLaundromat.com, Daytona Laundromat Instagram, Daytona Laundromat Facebook, et cetera, and actually pushes your competitors down and sometimes even off the page if you've got enough stuff going on. So that was a huge takeaway from me. And so I think that's a little bit of a side from the advertising, but it's all, for me, it's all tied together. It's all about this industry kind of moving forward together. And so, yes, you may be able to get away with not really advertising much for a while still. But if you think about, the mindset 20 years ago in this industry, it was like, hey, you don't have to replace your machines very often. You can run them for 30 or 40 years and kind of let it slowly deteriorate, right? And those turned into today's zombie mats. Don't be tomorrow's zombie mat, I guess is my point.
Exactly. And competition's just going to get more fierce because we hear the statistic of the success rate of laundromats and also hear the statistic of them typically having a 30% margin. And that's going to attract a lot of hungry entrepreneurs, especially with the way the economy is doing right now. And with the cost of doing business rising here, people are going to want those sure bets for what business they go in. So learned the marketing because that's one of the best competitive edges you can have.
Yeah, especially right now when the bar is so low, most places. They're getting higher and higher in some of the bigger metro areas. But okay, we got a question, and this may not be your area of expertise, but I've got some things to say on it if you don't. But Stephanie wants to know, what are the best financing options that you can recommend?
The only thing I guess I could say about that is that when it's time to refinance, Eastern Funding makes it very easy to do.
Awesome. So I'll just tag on to that. First of all, neither one of us are financing experts, so you probably want to talk to a lender. There's different loan products that are available with different companies, and they're changing all the time. The interest rates are changing all the times. I'll give you sort of a general overview of right now. Traditional interest rates are just super high, right? 10, 11% plus or minus. And it makes the acquisition, and it also makes equipment purchase more expensive than it was even, 18 months, 24 months ago. So, you've definitely got to factor that in. So in terms of what are the best options, it, it depends, which is the answer to every question pretty much, but it depends. And, there are kind of more traditional financing options, or like an Eastern Funding or a Prime Capital, something like that, where they focus on laundromats. And right now they're looking for, 40% down. And their interest rates are 10, 11% last time I checked. So is that bad? Maybe, maybe not. It depends on the numbers, right? It depends on the deal. If you've got to put 40% down and, pay 11%, but you're making enough to cover your expenses and you could leave your 9 to 5 job, then maybe it's worth it to you, right? Or if it's going to squeeze you and you're basically not going to make any money for 7 years, then maybe it's not a great financing option for you, right? So there's other ways to get financing out there also. So for example, there's SBA loans that you can get. I just did an interview with Brian Smolin, and we did a Q&A also that's on YouTube that you can go check out. If you're interested in SBA financing, there's some pluses and minuses to SBA financing, but one of the pluses is that you can come with a lower down payment. And a lot of times those interest rates are a little bit lower also. Downside is a lot of laundromats aren't going to qualify for an SBA loan. So it really depends there, and then there's sort of outside the box financing options. Also, and Stephanie mentioned she can't really use her 401k until she's retired. And while that's generally true, there are some things that you can do with those retirement funds. Sometimes you got to do it correctly, so you need to work with somebody who specializes in doing this. But there are certain things that you can do with those retirement funds, including something called a ROBS. It's a rollover business startup, I think, loan.
Yeah, Rob's is perfectly fine as long as like your laundromat is a corporation, but I think it has to be a C corporation.
Yes, yeah.
The thing I would always advise against, though, back from my old days of working in financial services, is don't borrow against your 401k. That's always a bad idea, just because the terms of it and the way that it ends up being for you in net tax gain and everything is that it always ends up being a loss. Would also encourage people to try not to have anything adjustable, any adjustable rate loans, because I had an adjustable rate equipment loan, and since interest rates have been doing nothing but going up, the interest payments on it were going up there and ate away a lot of profit that didn't need to eat away at.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's pretty common right now, too. So if you can avoid that adjustable rate loan, all the better. Just throw out one more option for you, or two, is private money. So that's borrowing. You can't use maybe your 401k money, but you could potentially borrow, certain relative like aunts and uncles 401k money, and they can essentially invest in your business or lend you that money to buy the business, and they would become the bank for you. So there's private money options out there. And then also, of course, seller financing, right? And that's a very attractive deal because you can structure a seller financing deal more creatively in a way that works both for you and the seller. A lot of times by playing around with the price and also the terms of that seller financing. So hopefully that's a couple of tools in your tool belt there, Stephanie. Also, there's a few Q&As that I've done with different lenders, SBA lenders, traditional lenders, and stuff on the YouTube channel there that you can go check out if you need more information about that stuff. I just want to real quick before we could jump into the next question, and keep those questions coming in if you got them. We want to get them all answered. That's our goal, is to get them all answered for you. But real quick, I just wanted to point out, I know a lot of you guys are joining late because we had some technical difficulties, or this is just when you could join. But if you go to DaytonaLaundromat.com/book, that should get you something that's really going to help you out. So, and it's free, no obligation, and that's thanks to Michael. So thank you, Michael, for that. And the first time I put the link in the chat for those of you guys on Facebook and YouTube, I accidentally put 3 O's in book. So don't click the first one, but I just put another one in. I'll put it on the screen too here, just in case you're not on one of those platforms. DaytonaLaundromat.com/book with 2 O's, the way that book should be spelled there. Awesome. Okay, another question coming in from Facebook right now is okay. How are you running your laundromat now that's different from when you were not making as much money? And what things are I think the question is basically what things are making the biggest impact in terms of how you're running your laundromat from now versus from when you started?
Payroll. Definitely having employees now, because when I first started, it was just me by myself doing everything. But you will realize that your time is better spent doing other things than folding the clothes and cleaning the place up. You can always pay somebody to do that. Whereas you want to be focusing on the things that only you can do. And the things only you can do would be things like the marketing of the place, the sales, winning over commercial customers, and also the accounting and making sure that the business stays profitable with how you're managing the finances for it. So that's the most noticeable difference here for like how I ran the place when I first opened it. I was doing absolutely everything, working 20-hour days, but now that we got employees here that are holding the place down, I don't have to be doing that.
How'd you know? This is my question. How'd you know it was time to start bringing people on? Because that's a pretty big jump to go from that solopreneur to actually hiring people to help you with the business. And it's a like I'd say that probably the biggest hurdle is going from not owning a business to owning a business. That's a really big hurdle for people to jump over. But I think the next big hurdle is going from doing everything yourself, like you're saying, to now leveraging, people. There's people, there's time, there's money, right? Leveraging people, hiring people to help you do some of these tasks that they can do probably better than you eventually, if not right away. And you can focus on more important things. How'd you get over that hurdle, and how'd you know when it was time to do that?
All right, I'll give you two answers. I'll give you a scientific answer, and I'll
All
give you
right.
the emotional answer.
Okay.
The emotional answer is because I was so paranoid that I wouldn't be able to keep somebody on regularly. Is I just waited until it was physically impossible for me to get all of the orders done within one day and all of the duties done within a day, because I'd always had that 24-hour promise to the customers that if they dropped off here, we'd have it done by the next day. Well, it got to a point where it just wasn't possible for me to do it all by myself anymore, so I had to hire people. But what I would do now instead is think to yourself, well, what am I going to pay for an hourly wage? Here we pay $17 an hour to our employees. So when you think of like how long you'll have an employee there, how many hours of the day you're going to be paying that wage to, add up all of that. So suppose we've got $17 going for 10 hours or so. Well, there's $170. When my consistent cash flow for the day is 4 times that amount, then I know that it's quite safe for us to hire a employee and work them for 10 hours that day.
Yeah. Well, I think thank you for sharing kind of both sides of that, because I listen, I'm a sort of serial DIYer trying to I'm in recovery from being a serial DIYer, right? That's my sort of natural default go-to is like get it done and get it done now, right? And I think that comes for me, at least, that came out of a lot of fear of, you know, it's a lot of more responsibility actually to kind of let go of that responsibility and give it to somebody else. And now you're responsible for that other person and for paying them and for drumming up enough business to be able to support them, like all that stuff, right? And that was a lot of fear for me that I've had to overcome. But I like that you shared the sort of more scientific kind of a benchmark to shoot for, that 4 times number to shoot for, to just to give us a guide of like, okay, once I hit this benchmark, I know that it's probably a good time to bring somebody on to help me out. I don't need to work myself to exhaustion to where I'm working 20 hours a day and crashing at the laundromat for 4 hours before I get up and do it all over again. Because that ain't no life. That's not why we get in this business, right?
That's right. And that 4 times, that's, you could base it off of like a daily average for the month. It doesn't necessarily have to be that you're making 4 times your wage payout every single day, because you're going to have slow days. And that's why I also give you the emotional answer, because this business can play some mind games with you very early on, because this is a very volatile business sometimes, where you have an extremely busy day that came out of nowhere, and then you have 2 days where it looks like it's a ghost town, and then another very volatile, busy day.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. There's definitely it's really interesting actually that you mentioned that, because there's definitely like a cadence that I see, where on the one hand there is some regularity, but on the other hand, you get those like rogue waves where there's either a flood of people coming in, or before the hurricane or the type, what is it, before the tidal wave comes in, it sucks everything out, right? And there's just nothing there, right? Just fish flopping around on the beach. and you're like, where is everybody today? So it is kind of funny because there is some consistency when you zoom out far enough, but on any particular day, it can get weird. So that's interesting you say that. All right, we have a few more minutes, so if you've got a couple more questions, get them in now. Again, our goal is to answer all the questions, so get them in there. Get them in there now.
Hoping somebody asks the homeless question.
Well, let's dig into it. I'm asking it.
Do I ask it? So everybody always asks us, how do you deal with homeless? Because I'd say nobody likes to be the bad cop and have to act like a bouncer or anything. So I have a brilliant way to deal with this here. Absolutely brilliant. You don't have to be the bad cop. In fact, you're going to seem like the greatest humanitarian. You see a homeless person that's camping out in your laundromat, you just go up to them and you say, hey, I understand, your situation here and everything. Or as I say this here, I was once homeless myself, which is true because I used to sleep in my laundromat. But I say, hey, I understand your situation here and everything, but I got to tell you, this is a brand new laundromat that I just opened up here, and it's really struggling to find its footing in business. But I tell you what, I got another laundromat up the road here that you can go stay at. I'll be happy to drive you there. And then what you do is you drive them to your competitor.
That's what I love to hear. Drop them off. Be the drop off. You know what's funny about that is that's essentially what LA County did to me. Because what would happen was people would get out of jail and there was a park across the street from my laundromat, and they would just drop people who got out of jail off. Most of them were homeless. If nobody came and picked them up, they'd drop them off at this park, and then they just kind of wander over to my laundromat. So essentially, that's what LA County was doing to me. So,
Yeah, I think that you can avoid a lot of those homeless problems if you keep the bathroom locked and the outlets, you keep those inaccessible, all the outlets around the store and everything. And as far as Wi-Fi goes, as long as the attendant knows what the password is and people know to ask the attendant and they just tell them, then you don't have a lot of reasons there for a homeless person to want to stay in your laundromat, especially if the seating ain't that comfortable, like that terminal seating.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, as you know, I've owned both attended laundromats and unattended laundromats, both in very rough areas. And I will just tell you that having an attendant there is going to take care of a big chunk of your problems as long as you let them know, what to do. Right. And essentially what I tell my attendants to do in rough, I'm in South Central LA here. This is about as rough as it gets. And what I tell my attendants to do is just say, to let, somebody who's not supposed to be there, they don't even have to be homeless, just somebody who's not supposed to be there, just to let them know, hey, you can't be there. If you can't be here, if you keep hanging out, we're going to call the police. And I let my attendants know to not be confrontational with people because my attendants, and a lot of times the attendants live in the actual neighborhood of the laundromat. And, one thing that I've found to be true is that if they start causing problems with, and having altercations with the wrong people in the neighborhood, that can put them and their family in danger. And so that's the last thing I want to do. And so I just let them know your job is to tell them they can't be here and nothing else except for to let me know if they don't leave. And then I will take care of it. And then I just end up calling the police and let the police actually come and take care of it. But that keeps them safe too, because you don't want to put them obviously in harm's way.
Yeah. And you don't want an employee that's like too scared to come to work the next day.
Yeah. All right.
Give me 2 seconds right here. I got the knock on my door. I got to check out.
Okay. I'm gonna tackle this one while you're doing that. Stephanie says, what do you think about turning an old dry cleaning facility into a laundry facility? Would it be like starting a facility from scratch costing millions? Great question. A couple thoughts on this. So it could potentially work. And so the answer is it depends. Could potentially work, but here's some obstacles you're going to run across. Number one is a lot of times dry cleaning facilities are relatively small compared to laundromats. So you're looking at a relatively small laundromat if you do that. Number two is there are environmental concerns with dry cleaning facilities where there aren't typically with laundromats, and so you'd want to make sure everything's good. You'd probably want to have an environmental inspection, uh, for that facility before you take over, just to make sure you don't have liability on any of that stuff. Number three is that while a dry cleaners, usually they'll have washers and dryers in there. They're only going to have a couple or a few, um, if they have them. And so you're going to be adding a lot of washers and dryers unless you're planning on kind of continuing running it mostly as a dry cleaner. So if you're adding a lot of washers and dryers, then you got to be aware of there are extra fees and costs to adding washers and dryers to a space, right? And so sometimes there's something called an impact fee, which not it's different everywhere, but a lot of times they charge by the washer. So depending on how many washers you add, it can add a whole bunch of a large cost to that build out. But then you also need to build out the actual plumbing and electrical and all that stuff for new to add new washers and dryers in there. So those are just some things to think about. Can it be done? Absolutely. Should it be done? Maybe sometimes, but do it with caution, is what I would say. Okay. Do you agree that if you employ one of the homeless people that hang around your facility will make you responsible for their actions doing drugs? Okay. Do you agree that if you employ one of the homeless people that hang around your facility,
Don't
will
do
make
it.
you responsible for their actions? Yeah, I would just say don't do it. That's not
trap.
something you want to.
It's a trap. Yep.
I've talked with other owners who have done that and it's never worked out well. And one of the things that I've said, and I haven't said it in this particular context, but when you work with good people, your business is going to grow. When you associate with good people, when you work with good people, people who know their stuff, people who have the same values and character that you're looking for in your business, things go well. The problem, and this is not like a knock on character of anybody who is experiencing homelessness right now, but the problem with hiring somebody who is homeless in your laundromat is that a lot of times they're part of the same community. And so, you know, depending on, there's a lot of different reasons for why different people are homeless. Some of them are drugs, alcohol related. Some of them are just unfortunate circumstances, and that's totally understandable. But if they're part of the community, then what I've seen happen a lot is that like attracts like, and so they're going to be more lenient with their friends or the community coming in and hanging out, and it's just going to cause a lot of problems, and especially if they're known in the community. Also, that can also cause a lot of problems because people know them as someone who's homeless in the community and not wanting to come to your business. So I totally get the sentiment of trying to sort of help somebody while also helping your business out, but it just doesn't work out. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
I understand like the thinking because they figure, well, this person is going to keep coming here, so may as well make them work. But it's not a good look for the business, even if they are like the best worker that you can find. I mean, if they really were a great worker, they probably wouldn't be homeless. And really, for an employee, what you want is you want your employees to be moms, because the moms all talk and they talk about where to go. So it's only good for your business to have a mother working as an employee and talking to all of her mom friends about your place, because they all ask. As a homeless person, it's best to handle them firmly to not come to your place than to give them the incentive of paying them to come to your place.
Yeah, and what I'd recommend, like if that's coming out of just a heart to help them, like I think that's a good thing. And it's hard to like find this balance of, or I found it hard at least to find this balance of, wanting to help, but also having to set a firm boundary. Right. And so what I'd recommend in that situation is set the firm boundary at your laundromat and offer to connect them with services that already exist to help them get jobs, to help them get off the street. So there's plenty of them all over the place. But what I found is a lot of times they don't actually want that help. But if it's coming from a good heart, then I'd say find the services in your community and offer to help them. Like literally take them to the services that are there to get them food, to get them clothing, to get them shelter. Whatever it is that they need, there's probably a service for that in your city. Hinder asks, this is a good question. Have you heard about wash, dry, and go? In other words, no fold. Any thoughts on wash, dry, go?
We did do that originally when it was just me all by myself here because didn't want to have labor yet, didn't want to have a payroll. I wanted to save on the labor costs. But now we've gotten to a point here where I got an employee all around the clock, and there's no saving labor costs at this point for me anymore. So, but don't do that anymore. I would say if you're going to drop off here and take up an employee's time and take up space on our racks, you're going to pay full price. You'll get full service, but you got to pay full price because taking up space on the racks and taking up an employee's time, it's the same amount of space on the racks there. We don't want to waste that on something that we made for something that we did for less money when it could be taken up by a customer's order that we make at full price. So it just depends on what your situation is. If you're still new and doing everything all by yourself and you just want to win business, maybe it's a good idea. But depending if you got a more matured laundromat in the sense of like you always have employees here, it's not going to save you on labor costs, and it probably ain't worth doing. And I don't really think customers like that too much because when clothes don't get folded, they get wrinkled.
Yeah. So yeah, and I've heard people who've done it and who've done it with success, and Waleed said it can be a great option, for for people who want to use the service at a lower price point. So, and listen, we got Waleed in the chat, we've got Michael right here, both legends, and so I think both are valid. What I like about what Michael's saying is you've got behind what you're saying is this bigger business mindset that you've got going on, right? And thinking about, I'm gonna be busy. Like my business is gonna be busy, so I don't want to take up the space of a lower price thing when I'm gonna be busy with, something where that's the full price and the full service experience. And you kind of control the output of the end product a little better. Like you said, it's going to come out wrinkly if you just kind of toss it in a bag. So not to say don't do it, because I think there's a lot of people that do it and that do it well, and that are benefiting from it. And especially when you're getting started, I think it can be a great option. And Madison said it can be a great option to have for commercial clients too. So yeah, that's interesting option too. And Michael, I apologize, Michael Miller, not you. I apologize, I missed your question, but he said, when starting off in your laundromat journey, what's the average amount of time it takes to find and acquire your first facility? You got any thoughts on that?
Well, it didn't take me too long because I was just so desperate to get out of corporate America that I would have bought the first one that I thought was affordable for me. And I think, though, that today now, it might be more difficult. It might take longer because the secret is out that laundromats are a great business and they're more sought after. You might have to do more research to get a good deal. You might have to get pretty creative to try to make your own deal too. I think that if you get on the radar of some good business brokers out there, though, they might end up giving you a deal before they list it or telling you about a laundromat for sale before it gets listed.
Yeah, and I'll weigh in here, Michael Miller, because I'm doing consulting calls all week, every week, and so I'm looking at deals with consulting clients all the time. I've looked at thousands of deals, and I'll say in the last 12 to 18 months, it's getting harder. Like like Michael Jones said, it's getting harder to find those deals. The secret's out on the one hand, sellers aren't selling. There's a limited supply and a larger demand right now. So I am definitely seen it take longer. Now, how long? It depends kind of on your market, depends on how aggressively you're looking. Are there deals to be found out there? Absolutely. Like Michael said, getting on it, the investor list of as many brokers as you can will help you. Searching for off-market deals by connecting up with owners yourself will help you. There's a whole lot of different things that you can do sort of outside the box to actually go out and find a deal. But actually, right now, as I was talking, somebody just posted in the pro community that they just got their first response from a direct mail campaign that they sent out some letters to laundromat owners, to laundromats, asking if they're interested in selling. So that is working right now, finding off market deals. Uh, but it's taken a little longer on average to do it. But also, I've had clients who found it, the right laundromat within the first week, and then I've got some clients that I've had for 4 or 5 months that have been looking this entire time. I've got one. This is our third go around trying to lock up a laundromat, and we're fingers crossed this is going to be the one. But it's taking a little bit longer in general.
Yeah, and something that I would also encourage people to a new mindset to adapt here is that you want to know what you're getting into before you get into it, because I didn't know what I was getting into.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, like, when you have a laundromat that's up for sale, it's going to be in one of two conditions. One is that it's a poorly run business that they're trying to get away from, and it's going to require a lot of hard work on your end after purchase to make it successful, which was the case with this place that I bought. Or if you got the top dollar to pay and you're willing to pay the top dollar, well, then maybe you get a turnkey, because ain't nobody going to give up something that is easy money for them unless they're going to charge a lot of money up front on the front end here. Like some places that are no bigger than mine, they say they would sell, but they want $500,000 for it, and that's not necessarily them trying to take advantage of new people trying to get in on the whole laundromat game because they hear it's good racket. That's them saying it to experienced laundromat owners like us that know the deal. They're saying, yeah, you guys know how great these things can be once you get them running properly. So of course we're going to charge a pretty penny for it because this is a great asset that I'm giving up. And it's a lot like the housing situation today here, where the not to say bidding wars, but like the desire for these things is so high that the sellers of good laundromats know that and expect to make a pretty profit off of the sale. Whereas when you find a good deal, you may have you may have to do a lot of work after you buy it.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely that it does parallel the real estate market right now. And similar to the real estate market, a lot of people who own laundromats that have leverage on it, those interest rates are significantly lower. And so, why sell an asset if your goal is maybe to go buy a bigger laundromat or whatever? Why sell an asset that's getting a good return on your money at a relatively low 5 or 6 interest rate, where I'm going to go out and buy another asset? My interest rate's going to be 8, 9, 10, 11%. So I'm paying more, for the asset, and the interest rate's higher. So my payments are going to be higher too. So a lot going on with the acquisitions. It's easier said than done right now, but that also means there's opportunity. And the opportunity is for the people who are willing to put in a little extra effort to go out and find those deals, or find deals that they can turn into good deals. By being creative, by applying marketing engine on their laundromat, by fixing the place up, retooling the place, all that stuff. There can be some really good opportunities to be made if you're willing to do a little bit more than sit on the couch in your underwear and search laundromat for sale near me. So
exactly.
It
like
can
the
be
days of finding good deals doing that are probably coming to an end.
I mean, at the very least, they're not here now. Whether they're coming back or not, I think probably not, but time will tell. So I think now is a great time to get into this business. if you're willing to do a little bit more work in going out and finding those deals or finding deals that you can turn into good deals. So, Michael, this has been incredible. Again, bringing the knowledge, dropping knowledge bombs left and right here. Really appreciate you coming on. Everybody who is here and who has been hanging out with us, thank you for bringing the questions and getting those in here. And hopefully you've gotten some really good stuff. I know you've gotten some really good stuff from this because Michael just knows his stuff. He's killing it himself and he really wants to help you. So one more time, make sure you go to DaytonaLaundry.com/book, DaytonaLaundromat.com/book. And snag that. And then if you are interested, and he mentioned this in the very beginning, but if you're interested in getting some help or figuring out how to get better Google reviews and get more of them, then shoot Michael an email at DaytonaLaundromat@gmail.com. Reach out to him there and let him know you're interested in getting more and better Google reviews. He's got something to say there. All right. Appreciate you guys. Oh, my camera just died right on time. Appreciate you guys, though. And hey, go out and take some action on this stuff that you learned today. And, I've never looked prettier with all these colors here. So, Michael, once again, thanks so much, man. And we'll see you guys at the next whatever podcast episode, Q&A, webinar, whatever it might be. Thanks again, Michael.
All right. I'm happy to come back anytime, Jordan.
All right. We'll do it again soon.
All right. You have a good day.